Welcome to Never Again Is Now, a podcast about anti Semitism. I am Evelyn Marcus.
And I am Phyllis Zimbler Miller.
What do people in the Muslim world say and write about Israel, October 7, Gaza, and Jews, now that several Muslim countries are involved in the International Peace Initiative for Israel and Gaza? We're thrilled to discuss this with a real authority in the field, Yigal Karmon, who is the president and co-founder of the Middle East Media Research Institute, MEMRI, in Washington, D.C. Before founding MEMRI, Yigal was the counterterrorism advisor to two Israeli prime ministers. MEMRI monitors what media and other sources say around the globe about the Middle East, anti-Semitism, terrorism, and white supremacy. It makes this accessible to the public and others for our own eyes to see, translated in English and other languages. You can check this out at memory.org. Yigal, welcome and thank you so much for coming on our show. It's a real honor to have you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
So, traditionally, the media in the Middle East said hateful things about Israel and Jews. Now that Egypt, Qatar, and others are involved in developing peace between Gaza and Israel, what do Middle Eastern media say about Israel, about Hamas, and about Jews today?
Well, may I add a little bit about memory?
Sure.
Established in 98, 26 years, we monitor the Arabic, Farsi, Urdu, Pashto, Turkish media, school books, mosque preachings and mosque. And 11 years ago, we began also Russian, and 7 years ago, Chinese.
Wow.
Amazing.
And, we will talk about what it means and what does it contain. It's a wide range. We don't monitor anti-Semitism as such, but I'll say what we do about anti-Semitism. And how did we begin with anti-Semitism, although whatever is in the media relates to that. So you began with a question, what are they saying now with regard to the peace process? I must first of all say, those four countries that you mentioned cannot be brought together. You have Egypt that signed an peace agreement with us, but they are very stubborn. They are worried. There was a coup against the Muslim Brotherhood. They are in constant fear for the existence of the regime. Qatar is buying them with billions of dollars, and they do the bid of Qatar. It's very tough. They are in a complicated situation. Most of the weapons were smuggled through Egypt, through Rafah, to the Gaza Strip. So you can imagine. And then you have the UAE, you didn't mention them. They signed the peace agreement with Israel. They are in the process of westernization, just like Saudi Arabia, but Saudi Arabia is vulnerable. Every day they can get a missile into Aramco, like they got some years ago, and then they are finished. So they have to behave themselves. No peace with Israel, no normalization, none of all this. Or else they lose their source of money. But they are trying normalization, westernization to some extent. Then you have Turkey and Qatar. Turkey and Qatar are the countries of the Muslim Brotherhood. Not in the same level. Turkey has the heritage of the Ottoman Empire. They have the Conference of Turkic Countries. By the way, also Hungary is included there. They have a stature of an empire, which they were, which the Jews and the Western countries caused them to collapse in the First World War. And there's Qatar, which is a non-entity, 300,000 people with immense energy resources, and they are Wahhabis. What were the Wahhabis? The worst sect in Islam of the 18th century. And then, since there was no Wahhabism, although they identify as Wahhabis, today there is no Wahhabism, so they are the sponsors of the Muslim Brotherhood. I can talk about Qatar a lot. It's all in our website. They are responsible for 9/11, and it's documented not by me. The commission, the Congress Commission on 9/11 says it. And it's detailed there in so many words. And the criminal who did it, Khaled Sheikh Mohammed, was a former Qatari government employee who ran away. All his American, purely American sources, not Israel, no nothing, not me, no. And he was to be arrested by a team of the FBI who came there, told the emir leaked it, he disappeared within hours, and 5 years later, the World Trade Center bombing. Now he's in jail in Guantanamo for 12 years, not put to justice. And they even tried to do a plea bargain for him, but he wasn't on 9/11. There was an attempt, the Bujinga operation of 12 American planes over the Pacific to down them. The Pope, when he visited the Philippines, this is Qatar. They funded Hamas. They fund the Muslim Brotherhood. I can talk about Qatar. So you cannot put them together with Egypt or with Saudi Arabia or with the UAE.
How do they?
Usually I quote the ancient Roman senator Cato, who used to say about Carthago, Carthago delenda est, must be finished. I say Qatar delenda est, without finishing off this evil family of Wahhabis, there will be no peace in the world. Now, you ask a question, so how do they relate to the war? Hamas got a huge boost because America, as a practical nation with a president, will talk about his understanding of the world, no political offense or whatever, treats him business-wise, treat Qatar business-wise. And the Hamas, Witkoff says he will talk to them. They already talked to us. So they got their recognition. The Palestinians see that this war brought them to somewhere that they were not before. So, of course, they feel promoted. And if they talk to America, then, and this is all over the media, all over, but some of it you saw.
What do you mean? Some of it we saw?
This hate 24 hours per day, and this is what they promote. So can you expect a peace out of this? You know, the situation in Gaza is that the Hamas is controlling with weapons. You can see them on TV. Disarming, they say no disarming. What are you talking about? And Witkoff said, they promised me. No, they did not. They said, when there will be, and when, then we'll give up. When we will rule it legally, then we don't need, there will be our army and our... He doesn't even understand what they said. So you cannot expect on the practical level any peace out of this. You can expect documents, and I'll talk about the documents that are relevant to what is happening. And while you have certain documents, on the ground, you have it like before. Hamas is controlling. They are shooting at Israel. There is a war. The war is continuing, and no one says anything. President Trump, whenever it goes out of control, he sends someone to put the cover on the boiling water. Please don't do anything, and it goes for another week or month or what. J.D. Vance, Witkoff, this, that, cover the boiling water. No real solution because Hamas continues to control. Now we'll talk about the documents because there is peace, there are documents. Here is what you have in the documents. It began with the French-Saudi resolution in the UN. And this resolution has 3 times the right of return. 3 separate times in one resolution. What peace can you make with Israel? Not with the Likud. Get the Likud. With the labor. The right of return. Now, when I published that, by the way, our government knows nothing, has no clue, and nothing. When I published it, I was called by Ofer Bronstein, a self-proclaimed advisor to Macron. And he said, no, it's not true. It's going to be negotiations, not that it implies right of return. Negotiation, also bad, but okay, negotiation. Guess what? It was a lie. It was in the resolution, no negotiation, no nothing. Then it passed to Sharm el-Sheikh. Then it passed to the Security Council resolution. Now, Israel, the peace, I mean, I don't want to say thank God for the war, because it's never thank God for the war. But the peace is with the right of return, the so-called right of return. So, Evelyn, you tell me, where do we go? On the ground is war. In the documents of peace is the right of return. No? Where do we go?
So where is the perspective of peace for Israel is what you're saying. So that's the war and that's the documents. What about the Arab or the Muslim press? How do they write about Jews these days? Just Jews. Is that still as vile? Because that if with one side of their mouth they speak about peace with Israel, and the other side of their mouth they still spew hatred about Jews as a people, that's another element that wouldn't work, right? So
first of all, we cannot talk about the Arab media in general. And there is no such thing. And there are liberals and reformists, and all of them are in memory. We publish them. We celebrate every liberal and reformist that we can put.
Yeah.
Have in memory people, Arabs in memory, that Muslims.
Yes.
One of them is, well, ex-Muslim, but now to talk about the most common, most prevailing perception of Jews, it did not change. And I have to tell you why. This is a religious enemy from ancient times. They tried to kill the prophet Muhammad. They killed all the other prophets. They are doing vile things from the beginning. They are horrible. These are the Jews. And the protocols and the blood libel, which they took from the Christian world. It wasn't in their heritage at all, but they endorsed it. It's a great... Now, we go back to the conflict. They took Palestine from its right owners. Here is what happened in the war. And there is another question that the Israelis, there was a surprise, huge surprise. Everybody was surprised. When I talk about it, we are going to publish next week a big study, 270 pages, 2 hours of recordings. Everybody was surprised. Why? They were saying it all the time. Why they were surprised? Because as you represent the good Jewish heart, and they don't think there is a Jew. Someone told me in a paper, they say Zionist and the moderate are contradictory. There is no such thing as Zionist. They are, and now, what do they say? The Israelis believed that more or less we have come to terms with the Arab world. It accepts us. What remains is a two-state solution. They want more. Israel wants to give them less. Okay, it's a matter of negotiation. Fine. Basically, we are fine. In the war, they realized that it's not about two-state solution. It's Palestine from the river to the sea. They didn't think of it. They had the audacity, the chutzpah to think, like they tell me, you came back after 2,000 years and you want us to forget it in 77 years? Tomorrow I'm speaking in Ashdod, south of Israel, and I want to tell them, guys, try to put yourself in their side. Because Gaza, some of the refugees, they are not a majority there, came from Ashdod, refugees. It was called the Sdud, but it's Ashdod. That's the biblical city, Ashdod. But okay, Sdud. And if you were them, what is all this BS of peace? Give us back our. You just took it from us by force. Israelis, Jews do not want to accept it. They cannot, because some of them say, oh, really? This is the case? So what are we doing here? This is insane to say. Do you mean that this is going to be forever? I don't say that at all. I think that there could be peace, but not in the way that it's done, in the way that accepts all their all the unacceptable. There is a new party coming and says peace will be possible when the two sides accept the ideology of each other, namely Zionism. They will never accept Zionism.
No,
First.
no, because in most of the Palestinian mind, there is this this unnegotiable wish to return to where they came from, which is all of Israel. And
if you were there, Evelyn, what would you think? It's your rightful place. I'll tell you about it in a moment, but this one has to have empathy without acceptance.
yeah, that's a very
I have
good.
empathy to their suffering, to their feelings, yet I do not accept it. And I tell them that. And you have to come to terms. There was a leader in Israel called Yigal Allon, who's in the labor, who said, this is our land, period. This is biblical. You cannot deny it. Everything tells you this is our land. However, we went to the diaspora. Other people came, turned it into their homes, into their nation. By the way, Palestinians, there was no. They came in the last 150 years. There are two PhD, two books on my table in the office. All the families from where they came and when, by their name. Bushnak from Bosnia, Masri from Egypt. So they're telling the truth in their very names. But so what? 150
I think
years.
this
No,
this
we
this
were not here.
notion. I think this no this deep yearning for the right to return, and by that the Jewish state would be overrun by numbers, right? If they would do that, that identity has grown mostly in the 75 years of being in those refugee camps. I think that's where that Palestinian identity grew most. Is that correct?
Yes, in fighting Zionism.
Yeah.
Because the Mufti, the collaborator of the Nazis, uh, in 20, he was member of the Syrian newly established parliament under the French occupation. And he went there to be member. And then he switched into local. But yes, this is but so what? Today, they are giving their lives, they became a nation in fighting the enemy, Israel, the
Yeah.
Jews.
So what's the way out
It's
of
a
there?
fact of life. It's a fact of life.
What do you see as a way out of that
Okay. Well,
situation?
first of all, the way out must be mutual recognition. No other way. And in the Israeli side, it's going less and less, and people become hateful after October 7. After you saw what you saw in the world, people are today less inclined to any peace. They don't want to live near Arab. We used to have Arab workers. Today it's full of Indians and Chinese and other. No one wants to see them. This is the result of the war. And the way the war was handled by them, which was horrific. There is a movie that the prime minister forbids publishing. It's only to selected audiences that shows the level of brutality and hate and the cruelty. I think he's forbidding it to keep his seat, because when Israelis will see it and the level of negligence and recklessness that he is responsible for, is finished. That's why he is forbidding. The claim is that this is to keep the honor of the victims. It's a bloody lie, because the honor of the victims, you have it everywhere, in every TV, in a car accident. When you have bodies mutilated by the accident, what do the TV channels do? They blur the face and finish, that's it. And no one can identify. So this pretext, or whatever you call it, is a lie. He's afraid that people will see it, and they will say, and who is responsible for all this? And my answer is, number one, him. Number two, everybody else. In all my lectures, and now I will address it to you and to all the listeners, who thought that they are still after Palestine from the river to the sea? No one thought that this is going, only memory. And when I published my early warning about which you asked, which was based on a huge report from 2018 called The March of Return, which showed maps to all the communities, how many minutes is from the Gaza to this and that and that and that, and all that. And in September already, there was a video showing their trial attack in Gaza on different air, sea, land, everything. And when I published that early warning, you know what people told me? Friends of mine.
No.
We have many parliaments, people, retired generals and others. So one of them was my friend, said to me, Yigal, stop with this racism. You cannot be defended any longer. And when we used to do school books, they told me, is this the nonsense you do in memory? What are you doing? And we have a video of a lady who is American in origin, very much on the peace side. And she lives here, and she made a movie made of our videos and some other clips. She called it The Road to October 7, Education to Jihad and Martyrdom. I will send you the link for anyone to see.
Thank you.
It's all there. It is all there. So if we don't make the demand, you have to recognize, even the Mufti in 1925, the Mufti, the Nazi, published a booklet for tourists where he said Al-Aqsa is the location of Haikal Suleiman, the Temple of Solomon. Then they removed it, but he did it. If you do not recognize, because they say it's lies, it's fabrications. It's not just that we don't accept it politically. No, it's in its basis lie. You made up stories to throw us out. Now, we didn't make up any story. And we did want, but, you know, I have bad news. The level of acceptance of a peaceful solution is going down significantly. What would you do when you see such horrific, and when it falls on your head in total surprise, in a Shabbat, in a Chag, what is this? We were to discuss two states, and then all the demonstrations from one end of the world to the other, Palestine from the river to the sea. Now, if we want 9, 10 million, I include the Arabs of Israel in it, then maybe that solution will be workable for them. They think so. Another attempt, it will be fine. But I tell you, Haaretz publishes that 200,000 left the country. I can tell you this was also published, not by them, that the level of recruitment to fighting units is huge, uncomparable to the past. 9 million, the Shoah cannot come back. No way.
So Israel
So,
is not gonna give up, is what you're saying. So
no. So all those who say, so where are we going? If this is the situation, you're telling us this. By the way, I say, I'm not telling you anything. Read memories, translations. You read what they say. It's not me telling you. I'm just translating. And you will see what they say. So then, so what are we doing here? At least be happy they did not succeed. They will never succeed. After this one, for the next 50 years, everybody will know what they want.
so
So
yeah.
no surprises any longer.
Let's switch the conversation to America, though, because we've been talking about Israel the whole time. And I think it's really important that we talk about what the news is in America, especially what mosques are preaching and just the general American and English language newspapers.
Yes. So let me begin. Why did I say never again is memory? We began in 98 with an article by the op-ed editor of the Washington Post, Stephen Rosenfeld, a very decent guy, who was briefed by me. And by the way, he asked me, what if they become different? What would you say? I said, Palestinian state. So openly, it was a big conference, and not in secret, not in meeting me and you, and no one would know. In big, this pushed him to write his piece which was called about memories, establishment called In Fire with Hate. On Fire with Hate. The enemies was like before the Palestinians, Israel, the Jews, and America. Since then, we keep warning the world of the danger, not only to Israel and the Jewish people, but also to America. And I'll talk about that. We have Russia, we have China. So regarding the warning to the Jewish world, the Jews in America, how did we begin with the imams project? Elie Wiesel was on our board. He praised memory to the skies. He was a very big supporter. After he died, I was visiting his son, Elisha. And I told him what we saw in America, just a little bit. And he said to me, you know, that's interesting, but you should also show the other side. I said, but we are showing them, all the liberals and the reformists, they are not as big in number, but we are showing them. He said, no, I meant the anti-Semites, the neo-Nazis, and so on. So we began doing both things in a large scale, imams and the others. We exposed Nick Fuentes years ago, before anyone. Regarding the imams, we have by now 700 videos spewing hate, and hate to America, hate to the Jews, hate to Israel, but they are more local also, bringing up all the legacy of Islam at its worst, everything. And we published that so much long ago. I have to tell you something about the willingness to read. We are struggling that people will read it. And I hope all the listeners will go to memory.org and see what is there. We couldn't get the word out. I remember once I talked to the APAC guy in Jerusalem, but I had also with Howard Kohr in the past. I told him, why don't you publish our material? He said, it is too tough. There was once a policy conference on Iran. I came to Howard Kohr and I said, listen, Howard, there are 2 hours that people are coming into the building before the big personality is entering, and you're showing the big screens, all kinds of things. Let's show speeches by the Iranian president. He said, no. What did they show? Parks in Israel. Because it is too tough.
Yeah.
It is too tough on the soul of Jews to feel that no matter where they are, you took the land, what no matter where you are. American Jew, you support Israel. Enough with you. Don't tell us nonsense.
Yeah. No,
And people don't want to read it. Evelyn, you find a miracle to have them read it.
I understand. I watch Memory a lot. I'm also getting the email announcements of new clips, and I can recommend it to everybody because again, what you get is the raw material, but in translation to English, of what the Muslim world is saying about Israel, about Jews, about other things that are relevant to Westerners, and it's just their own words. And you also publish positive things that are being said by reformers, etc. So it's not just a selection of negative stuff.
No.
And it's very informative. And I also used it in my documentary. So, but it's breaking. That's why I also asked you, why we asked you, now that we have this now that we have this picture in the news of peace talks, etc., what are they really saying in the American mosques, imams? What are they saying about Jews these days? What are they saying about Israel these days? Because before these peace talks, it was very poisonous. Is that
It's
still the
more
case?
poison, more than ever before. And the Jews of America were exposed, supporters of the robbers, of the morality lacking Israel. By the way, they forget totally October 7th. They forget the Geneva Convention. You know, who said in the UN, I'll tell you already, not our foreign minister, that international law and the Geneva Convention forbids to have any place that has a protected status to have anything to do with violence, with military in the case of armies, terrorists in the case of terrorist organization. So Annalena Baerbock, a Green Party foreign minister of Germany, said it in the UN. And she said, we have a problem here. I say it because the Rosa Luxemburg Foundation issued a question to the government. Are we taking care of the Geneva Convention? Like, I'm not here to defend what we do. I had a solution to, instead of the war, we should have fought Qatar in a variety of ways, not war, but in a variety of ways, and everything would have been great. No war, no casualty, no nothing. But since it's happening, since our prime minister was totally like that with Qatar, out of whatever, so it's a war in the war. Rosa Luxemburg Foundation, you ask your government, are we keeping the Geneva Convention? What do you know about the Geneva Convention, you Rosa Luxemburg Foundation? The Geneva Convention forbids them from using the population as human shields. And we have a video by the head of Hamas saying, we need blood of children and women and elderly to support our struggle. I'll send you the video.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I am losing
Phyllis.
power. So
Pardon?
I just might have to get off.
Okay.
Just I can't figure out why I'm losing power. But anyway, go ahead.
Okay.
Okay.
So
So you will see the video of this guy. This is the Geneva Convention, and they are abusing it.
right.
So they say worse things than ever before because Israel destroyed Gaza. What are they expected to say?
Mm-hmm.
I feel empathy with them, but who caused that? Were we supposed to just give up and leave the hostages and nothing? I spoke in the Israeli TV on the second day and said we have to switch all the prisoners or the terrorists in our jails for all the hostages. I was not listened to, but I suggested that
Mm-hmm.
to avoid all this. The
Mm-hmm.
government didn't do it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, Igal, we are approaching the end of our interview. Um, our last question is
Yes.
how can memory help our listeners to speak up against anti-Semitism, and how can our listeners help memory?
The second question is very easy. I'll begin with the first one. people have to read to live in the real world. If people choose not to live in them, but to live with their ideas and ideals, which are phenomenal, and this is what most of the Jewish world is characterized by, but in total disconnect with the reality, then we'll have more and more. Even today, I'm saying about war, it's not incumbent that after war comes peace. No, war shows you how difficult it is to have peace. War is an explanation for the difficulty of peace. People have to read to know where they are. And this is not, it does not mean that we can't have a state, we cannot have anything, and let's move away. First of all, who takes us and where do we move and what? And plus, people want to live in Israel because it's our homeland. But it doesn't mean, as I said, that we will drive them out. No, we have to come to terms, but we have to be on equal terms ideologically. And we have to put it as a demand to them. So many will accept it. The Arabs in Israel were not taking part on all this mishegas. They did not take it. And there were some who wrote nasty things on the media, on the internet, to find grace with their lefty friends in Israel, but this was a minority. Most of them were on the side of Israel. They knew. I have friends, some friends are telling me that, and they knew who these people are and what is their goal. And guess what? They don't want the Arabs to get back because with all the evils that Israel does, it's still a place where they have a parliament, and the parliament works by majority, and they are needed by all the parties to have majority for laws, and they have, there is hate, there is mutual, but it's a democratic country, and they have their status. They are 20%. In 20%, you have power.
So you say
So
memory can help our listeners
by putting
by
them in reality, how
right.
can they help memory? They can help memory spread, be more impactful, more forceful, more explanatory by doing all kinds of things for which you need a budget. We are talking now about more on the social media. It takes a budget. You cannot run projects without a budget. So whoever wants to help himself and to help us spread the truth should support memory. And when they go to memory.org, they will see how they can support us. We are a 501c3, and for 27 years, 6 years.
Which means
So it's
a
tax
charity. Yeah.
deductible.
Yeah.
Yes, and they can do it.
Thank you, Yigal, for this wonderful interview, all these unique insights that you gave us.
Wonderful. It is not, Evelyn, but it is the truth and
It
the
is the truth.
reality.
And that's very important. We also want to thank our listeners for listening. Whoever wants to know more about us, about Never Again Is Now podcast, go to the Never Again Is Now podcast channels on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and iHeart. And we will also publish some links to the work of memory, that links that Yigal will send us. We will publish it at the cover of this episode. You can find it there. And to everybody who listened, we want to ask, whenever you come across anti-Semitism, speak up against it. Thank you.
Thank you, Evelyn.